People don't want to talk to you because you think you're looking at ways to replace them. The most important thing I try and do is to say, I'm not coming in to replace you. I'm trying to help make your job easier.
What's your definition of a chief AI officer?
It sort of sits in between a chief technology officer and a chief people officer. You are not just the AI guy. You are a holistic person that looks at the whole business functions as a whole, looks at the processes, looks at the people, and you're the sort of jigsaw that pulls all that together and then adds the AI on top of it to make it more effective. Instead of a business taking 47 hours, which is the UK average, to respond to a client, we now can respond to clients within 60 to 90 seconds.
Chris Duffy is a chief AI officer and former British Army leader helping UK businesses use AI to solve real problems. He brings clarity, strategy, and a human touch to cut costs, save time, and drive growth.
Welcome to Using AI at Work. I'm your host, Chris Daigle. Each week, we'll be learning how today's business owners, entrepreneurs, and ambitious professionals are getting more done with smart use of tomorrow's tech. Let's get started. Right now, every business leader is asking the same question. What are we going to do about AI? If this is you, ChiefAIOfficer.com has the answer. We give you a simple path forward where we provide executive and team training so your people know exactly how to safely use generative AI in their day-to-day. We also manage the deployment and implementation to make sure tools actually get adopted and deliver results. And we'll also guide company-wide transformation so AI becomes part of your operating system, not just another shiny object. The companies that act now will increase productivity, cut costs, and grow faster than their competitors. Those that wait will get left behind. So if you want to make AI work in your business, visit ChiefAIOfficer.com and see how we're helping companies of all sizes finally get results from AI. Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of Using AI at Work. This is Chris Daigle. I'm your host, and today we have a chief AI officer named Chris Duffy calling in from the Bournemouth area, big member of our chief AI officer community. And I wanted to sit him down today because he's doing some pretty incredible stuff for companies, maybe companies just like yours if you're listening to this podcast. So Chris, before we get started, you've got an interesting history that's led you to becoming the AI expert. So if you don't mind, maybe share kind of how you arrived at being a chief AI officer.
Yeah, no problem. So I finished 23 years in the British Army in communications, and then I left in September 2024. And in my last 3 years of doing that, I was when ChatGPT 3.5 came out in November 22. I was all in on cybersecurity and governance. Nice. And sort of the transition I wanted to make. And then once I saw that position and that was going to be, and I was like, wow, this is a game changer, I sort of switched focus completely into the AI space. And then I went down a rabbit hole of trying to learn as much as possible about AI ethics, AI governance, AI strategy, and then started to move further and further down the line. And then as we come on to sort of the September time in last year, then I saw the Chief AI Officer course and thought, why not professionalize in the AI strategy side of it and get something good? I was studying already for an MBA, which I'm due to finish at the end of this year. But since I did the Chief AI Officer course, I seem to have got more credibility from that than I do from an MBA that quite a lot of people have got, and it's quite niche. Sure. There's a lot of people often contact me and say, "What's a chief AI officer, and how can I become one?" So, I mean, that's been really sort of a good talking point for people to engage with me.
What do you say when people ask, what's your definition of a chief AI officer?
It sort of sits in between a chief technology officer and a chief people officer. You are not just the AI guy. You are a holistic person that looks at the whole business functions as a whole, looks at the processes, looks at the people, and you're the sort of jigsaw that pulls all that together and then adds the AI on top of it to make it more effective. People always look at the CTO as the guy that manages all of IT, and a change management officer or a people officer that will manage the people and their training. But nobody pieces the two together.
So what do you, because I'm sure that a lot of companies out there, maybe not the listeners of this podcast, but most companies, when they think about AI, they think, oh, that's a technology. Therefore, that should fall under the CTO. Do you experience that kind of belief when you're talking to companies?
No, not at all. Okay. So, I mean, There's there's a number of things I've talked about it before, but the CIO function and the CTO function, both of those roles are incredibly busy, and they have, really grounded in functions that have been there for years. And to add AI on top of a CTO's role and responsibility just puts an incredible amount of pressure on them that they already don't have capacity for. So it becomes a nice to have. And then your CIO's already got, the whole data problem to be managing and ensuring that that's effective. So to then give him that role as well is again pushing them completely out of capacity. The CAIO sits in the middle, and they know the technology side, but if they need more technological expertise, they can go to the CTO, and if they need more the data management, they can go to the CIO. But what they're looking at is the piecing of both of those functions together, and then how that can be driven forward to drive return on investment.
Nice. Okay. I think that's helpful, because for companies that aren't necessarily, like, they don't know the difference between maybe analytical AI and like applied or generative or operational AI, they kind of think it's all this one, heavily technical thing, and they need some PhD with data science to come in. But I agree with you. That's not necessarily the key. You might want that person to support the CTO, but for the most part, it's a people thing.
Yeah. I mean, every company doesn't need a CIO right now, but they would massively benefit from a fractional CIO to come in and give them some advisory, which is, a lot of the work I'm doing. And when I always go into a company, I always approach it with a problem first approach and a people first. It's always, what's the biggest pain? What drives people crazy every day? What are the things that are costing you a serious amount of money or taking the most amount of your time? And then straight away, the board are aligned in, we know that this has been driving us crazy for months. Is there anything you can do about that? And then you become the problem solver rather than the AI guy, and that's the sort of balance that you need to strike.
Nice.
I don't go in with an AI as an offer. The AI it comes in, the AI tools and the support and the transformation type of it all comes in after we've identified the problem and everybody's aligned to that problem and it's aligned with the business goals.
So that's good. Where are companies, like, why are they reaching out to you? What is the story going on in their heads that they need to talk to Chris Duffy?
I think it's it's the hype is the main thing. A lot of times I get, we need AI in our company, and I'm like, why? For what purpose? And a lot of companies are going, oh, we already use AI. We've got Copilot. And you're like, yeah, okay, but what problem are you trying to solve with Copilot? And they go, well, people are writing emails with it. I'm like, yeah, that's great. But if you gave all of your employees Copilot, but you gave them a good training package and the problem that is driving you crazy that you need to solve, then the people are going to be a lot more on board with it, and the return on investment would be tenfold.
Yeah, that's a good point. Using AI to write emails is certainly helpful, but it's capable of much more than that. So
yeah, that's like the 1% of what you can use it for compared to.
But I guess that's kind of like a gateway drug that's universal to every knowledge worker. I have to send emails, right? So I guess that's a good start.
I mean, people spend most of the days on emails, don't they? So
yeah,
it's the first thing they'll go to try and make it easier.
So the clients that you're working with, they say, okay, we need AI. Tell us what that means. So you come in, and the first conversation that you're going to have is typically with who?
Ideally, a decision maker. I don't want to go and speak to a CTO or a CIO. In a big enterprise, it's understandable that you probably end up having to start there. But the smaller businesses, you have to speak to, managing director, CEO, like pretty much straight away, because otherwise, you can paint the world a far better place with AI, but then they've got to then go and upsell it to their MD to make that decision. So, you're already on an uphill battle and a back foot before you even start. And I'm not trying to sell AI. If people want AI and they want to come to me for it, then, I can offer advice on that. But I'm not walking around with a billboard and a sale offer of come and get AI from me.
Right. Not a bad idea. I should probably wear a shirt like that. So once you have that conversation, where are you finding that it's starting to click for the leadership as far as like, okay, here's the way that I need to be looking at AI as a business leader? What are you telling them that you think really helps them have that aha moment?
So, I mean, when we first meet them, normally the initial chat is remote, and then myself and my business partner will both join the call, both with note takers. And straight away there, we'll always say, we're going to record this call. Is this okay with you? Or, they'll get an email prior to tell them that the call will be recorded. And then we can draft a proposal with a service offering 1-2 hours after the call, which will normally take somebody 8 to 10 hours. Yeah. And it'll be around about 90% there within 10 minutes of being off the call. Yeah. Just because we take that transcript, put it into the business brain that we've already built within the LLM. And then, so I use Claude, and I've built a business brain within there that knows everything about me, everything about Tim, my business partner, everything about what the business does, what our KPIs are, what our service offering is, our ICP, all that's built into there. So when I put my transcript into that, and then I ask it to draft the proposal, it's drafted and 90% ready pretty much straight away.
Anybody listening to this, I hope you just caught that. Proposals are necessary, but they can be a big pain to produce. Very labor intensive, no guarantee they're going to turn into business. The way that Chris just described this, with the way that he's using an AI-powered note taker and the large language model Claude, which is his preference, and some of the pre-configuration he's done, he's able to get off the phone call and have 90% of that proposal ready within minutes. So that's a fantastic use case. Do clients ever ask you to set that up for them?
Yeah. So once we start into an advisory, that's one of the first things we say is you need to record your calls. You need to get your staff to have calls recorded and transcribed so that they can take that information and be able to do more with it. And I mean, even a great use case, even from just transcripts and calls, is I can go back to a call that I had 3 months ago with a client that, said, oh, can you come back to me in a few months? We're not quite ready yet. And you go back to them and he's just had surgery on his knee when you spoke to him 3 months ago. And then 3 months later, you quickly look at the call and go, oh, he had a knee operation. Yeah. So, or you can even go in, I use Fathom as my note taker. And I can go in, say, ask Fathom and say, oh, was there any personal information shared here that I might want to bring up to build rapport? And then it would come back to me and say, oh, ask him how his surgery is. And then go back into it. And straight away that rapport is there. And they're like, wow, how did he remember that?
AI. Fantastic. So once you've they say, okay, you're the person that we'd like to work with. What are the next steps for you when you are working with a company?
So firstly, to understand what their goals are, where do they want to be, what are their current baseline, and where do they want to be? Because my business partner's been in the growth advisory for 20, 30 years, scale companies to hundreds of millions. So his expertise lies in there and in marketing, and he's really, really good at that. So, we get the baseline of the business, understand all of that. And then we look at where the pain and problems are. And then we start to look at where they can be improved, and then what AI systems and tools or processes can be eliminated or replaced to make them more efficient. So it's a good, it's a 1 to 2 day discovery, and then probably 5 days overall with the questions back and forth. And the larger the company, you might have to go around, speak to the staff, understand their processes, those sorts of things. So, but, you're building a picture of exactly how the business operates and what the things are that are causing the business problems and the bottlenecks.
So if I was a business owner, one of the things I would hope that my people are so busy that any they just don't have time for disruptions, like answering questions from the AI consultant or any consultant, really. Does that come up like, hey, how much time is this going to take for my people? And if it does, how do you kind of mitigate or address that concern?
So the main thing is apprehension. People don't want to talk to you because you think you're looking at ways to replace them. That fear and angst is rife. And
Yeah.
the most important thing I try and do is say, look, I'm not coming in to replace you. I'm here. I'm trying to help make your job easier. So tell me all the things that you hate doing, and I will try and remove them and make your job better and enable you to do higher things, more important things that can drive business growth. So, I mean, if you're a business owner, a small business owner, and you are fully embedded in the company and you're focusing on the day-to-day work of the company, you're never going to grow, because you're never stepping back holistically and looking at where the company is now and where it should be going. So until you can take some of that pressure off, then it's really a struggle to grow.
So some of the people listening might say, okay, this is great. we're going to get all of Chris's steps, and then I'm just going to do it myself. What are your thoughts, like, as far as result or impact of, because I'll give you a perfect example. There's a business, operating model out there called EOS. A lot of listeners may be familiar with the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And the reason I'm using that example is because they've got a book called Traction. It outlines the process. I could get the book, maybe do those steps myself, or I can get an EOS implementer who has already been trained and certified and comes into my business and just kind of runs that for me. So do you have many businesses that say, A, we've either tried it ourselves, we're good, or thanks for the information, we're going to give it a shot doing it ourselves first?
Not that I've encountered, but what I normally get is, you can send a proposal to somebody, and then they'll go, right, thanks, I'll look over it. And then, a couple of weeks go by, and then you go back to them and they go, oh, actually, it's not really a priority right now. I'm so busy with what I'm doing. Then I'll look at it in a few months. And, that's quite common. And it's not that they don't want AI. It's just that they are so busy in the day-to-day fighting fires that, they don't have the capacity to take on that next problem.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is if they made the time for that, they would get all that with the time back. They don't have.
They start opening up hours that first week. Yeah. Interesting. So, okay, now you've gone into the company, you have identified some of these pain points. Are they usually pretty clear on what those are, or do they need help kind of discovering, or do they end up saying, hey, we thought we knew what the problem was, but after your audit, this is actually the problem? Yeah,
I mean, if you sit in a room with 6 people and you ask them what the biggest problem in their business is, you'll get 6 different answers.
Yeah.
So I created frameworks when I started my own company. I used something called the Engage framework and the Ignite framework. Now, the Engage framework is fully designed to align a leadership team to the common problem and then assign ownership to it. So you need to understand what your problem is. Everybody needs to agree that that is the biggest problem. You might come up with 5 or 6 problems in that discussion, but, pick one problem, and everybody agrees that that is the problem that needs to be fixed. Then you align somebody to own that problem. And then once you've got that from there, then you need the buy-in from the people that you're going to implement it in. So then you need to start managing that holistic transformation. You also need to vet the tools. You need to know which tool fits the business. You might have everybody uses Copilot, however, or you're on Microsoft, so you use Copilot, but half the company might use Google.
Yeah.
And they might use Google for a different reason. So, you have to make the tool fit the company rather than the company fit the tool.
Yes.
So then the Ignite framework, following on from there, once we've got the problem, the solution, and the owner, then the Ignite framework is the implementation team. So, you find your AI champion in your company, somebody, most of the IT guys are already passionate about AI and know quite a lot about it.
Cool. Yeah.
So if you can get somebody inside the business rather than bringing somebody in to do the implementation, then you are 100% better off.
That makes sense.
In my opinion.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Like, we've identified the problems. We've now kind of we've settled on some, and you mentioned finding some people inside the company what is their role? Let's say you've got a couple of the, maybe from the tech team, maybe from the marketing or ops team, but people who are like, I'm already using it at home. I get it. I'm thinking in AI, as we like to say. How are you going to kind of structure their efforts to support the company's ideal outcome?
So the key thing I always do, I mean, I teach master classes and I teach the same thing in this is you've got to get buy-in from the people that you're implementing the tool, because to them, it's just another tool they have to get used to. But what you've always got to do is show them the wow moment.
Yeah.
You know, once somebody goes, wow, and then they start thinking, you know, the mind starts running on the multiple different things that they could potentially use this for in their day-to-day work. That's when you get the buy-in, and that's when people are interested in starting to adopt this tool. And the second thing is the training package that goes with it. So you need to teach people how to use it, but how to use it in the way the company wants you to use it.
Yeah.
Not just all the different things that are available, because then they get overwhelmed. And then the last thing is feedback. A lot of companies don't give any feedback. So I don't tell people or companies to roll it out in one department. I'll say, you know, pilot it in 3 departments at once in small silos, and then get the feedback from each department constantly, and then sit them all down every week, and they can sit in a room together and discuss what works, what doesn't work, what they're having problems with. And they can share those problems and share those experiences and gain so much more from that, rather than trying to do it on their own.
Kind of that collective sharing and intelligence. Do you, as the fractional chief AI officer, are you participating and facilitating those meetings?
Yeah, so we have weekly meetings, 1 to 2 hours a week, depending on the company size. But if they need more help or they need guidance on any of that, then, you know, we can definitely get involved.
So you mentioned that. Go ahead.
This is the way to do it, and see you later.
Yeah. You know, here, my experience has been if you train the people and they have the wow moment, they'll get some benefit. But if there's not somebody from the outside that's kind of continuing to nudge or push or check in and not creating that tempo, that the adoption, it'll wax and wane, let's say. So you mentioned this wow moment. And I love that idea, because once somebody has that wow moment, I've seen it, you've seen it, like they're like, oh my God, I didn't know it could do this. And then they start going, oh, I wonder if, can it do this? How do you help facilitate that wow moment with these folks?
So there's a couple of different things. What I try and do is demonstrate it.
Okay.
Demonstrate it to the people I'm training. The masterclass wow moment is, you know, we build AI voice agent receptionists for people. Yeah. So I'll throw it up on the board, call me, and I'll just say, you know, you're approaching me. This is my AI assistant. If you call this number and you want to book an appointment with me, then, you know, you can come to me with a business problem, talk to this receptionist, tell it your problem, and then see what it can do. And then they come off the phone and everybody in the room's listening. And they're just like, wow. And that'll book an appointment in my calendar for me. It'll send me a message afterwards and tell me that somebody's booked an appointment with the problems that they've got that they want to talk to me about. You know, that's one thing. And the second one I always get a wow moment is Gemini Studio, when you click share my screen, and then you just say, hey Gemini, I've got a problem building out this automation. Can you help me with this? This is the problem I'm seeing. Can you see my screen? And then it's like, yes, I can. And then they start talking to you back and explaining how to do it. And you just see people sat there going.
That's beautiful. So are you doing a lot of builds, or are you doing mainly just teaching and strategy?
So the intention when I started the company was to stay at the strategy side, but I'm finding I'm building out automations more and more. And I'm starting to build out custom solutions for companies as well. So there's one client that I'm working with. We're building a SKU management system that can turn any product. They can upload CSVs, PDFs, and they can put it into the system we've built, and then it will generate a web-ready description in their own brand voice to be able to upload to the website. And that, you know, normally takes any company like that with a marketing copywriter 2 to 3 hours per product. And we can do 5 to 10 in just under 2 minutes.
So just for those listening, to make sure that you're clear on this, you can take a CSV with SKUs, and what else is in there? SKU and product name, I guess?
Yeah, SKU, product name, a quick description from the manufacturer in what the product is, and then it will pull all of that information, and then it will generate a brand voice, short description, long description. and SEO, meta description, all of that for you straight away.
And it can do a whole catalog of products in minutes as compared to having an entire copywriting team spending their weekend crunching this out. That's fantastic. So are you encountering, you mentioned it briefly, but I would imagine that if I was an employee and I've heard all the hype about AI, specifically the kind of the fear mongering about AI is going to take jobs and stuff like that, which there's no doubt it will. And somebody says, "Oh, here's the AI consultant. They need to talk to you." I would be nervous. How? And you mentioned that you tell them, "I'm here to make your job easier." But is there any more to it, to kind of like managing their expectations or concerns so that they're cooperating with the AI efforts as compared to introducing friction into the AI efforts?
And that's a really difficult problem because it all depends on what the board want. If the board want to streamline the business, implement AI and streamline a business, then it's understandably jobs are going to go, especially normally at the entry level. Like I said, it's understanding what problem they're trying to solve and where the business is going, and that's why we always focus on that side first. And then I tend to not like taking as many of those jobs on because it's difficult. Not because I don't enjoy the difficulty, but because it's, you can see where it's going.
The emotional toll.
I always focused my business and vision in people first.
Yeah.
And a people first organization. So it's meant to empower people and help people and not replace them. And I know it's going to replace a lot of people. And, the advice to people that are in those jobs where those are going to go is get used to AI. It's not going anywhere, and it's only going to get more embedded in everything we do. So start to learn and understand it, and then make yourself more valuable in what you do, and show them that that's not the only thing you can do. You're not there just as a data analyst. You can also do X, Y, Z. And people will adapt. You had the Amazon warehouse case study where, they had so many people that were taking things from the shelves, packing boxes and all that. And then Amazon brought in all of the robots to do that. And all of those people, not all of them stayed, but a lot of the people that had the skills were then trained in robotics and maintenance and
interesting,
the data management of that side of it. And it's just people will adapt and businesses will adapt, but it's just based on the speed and the sort of capacity they've got to keep their employment.
So tell me what this means to you, this people first. What does that mean to you?
So you're going in to solve a problem that is pain, that is people's pain. It's something that, has been driving the company mad for so long, especially, the smaller businesses. A great example for that is there was a lady who, she was quite well paid in her business. She was a marketing consultant, and she used to take in LinkedIn, Facebook, all the different ads, put your meta ads, pull them all in. And then she used to sit there in the evening and read through and work out the outreach of each one. And I said to her, you can put this into a dashboard and use an agent to search all of this for you, scrape everything, and then give you the outcome every morning at 9:00. And that was 68 hours a month I saved her.
Wow.
Just from the initial conversation. And that's where I get the value, and that's where I go, wow, I've helped that person so much. And
massive.
That's what you want. And that's the job satisfaction is being able to do that for people. And then, they say, oh, go and speak to this guy. He's saved me so much time. And now I'm taking on 3 times as much work as I used to have. So again, it goes back to the growth.
I like that perspective. Certainly, as a AI professional, you start with the executive team and you evaluate their strategy and you look for ways that AI can help them achieve that strategic goal faster or with less resources. Like that's the obvious part. But this positioning of coming in and helping the people, I don't know that that's necessarily what a lot of executives associate with, hey, we've got an AI consultant coming in to talk to us. I don't know that that's the lens through which they're looking at it. I'm certain for sure. But now you mentioned earlier, and before we started the recording of this today, you were kind of briefing me on some of the management of AI usage within the company. Let's say you've come in, the team is now, they're thinking in AI, they've had the wow moments, you're saving them time. And these employees and team members are starting to, they know enough to, let's say, be dangerous. They're like, ooh, I could use AI for this. Ooh, I should probably be using AI for this. How are you recommending that companies manage and like kind of just control this?
So the control is the hardest part because, if you gave somebody a shiny new toy and then said, don't touch it.
Yeah.
It is going to be difficult. But I mean, the hardest thing people can do, I read the MIT report about, the different consultancy companies that had gone in and did the survey. And they said 90% of companies are embracing AI and 10% have said, don't use it. It's a complete ban on the usage of AI in the workplace. Now, I can understand that if you're working in a top secret environment and that sort of area. But, if you're in a business that is not working in highly sensitive material, less personal information, then why not? And if you tell somebody they can't use something within the business, then they're going to use it outside the business.
Yeah.
And, I post about this a lot on LinkedIn. Shadow AI is a key factor and a key problem. For those that don't know, shadow AI is using your own personal AI tools in the workplace and putting company and proprietary information, client personal information into open source. So it can be for anybody. And, that's a real risk for companies. And if they don't put systems in place that allow people to use AI in the workplace to do what they need to do and to make their jobs easier, then they'll find another way. Humans are an inherently lazy race. If we can find an easier way of doing something, then we definitely will.
Agreed.
In terms of, internal LLMs is a great one for, if you're in a more secure environment such as pharma, you can, you've got your Meta LLM, you've got Mistral, which is French, which you can take completely off the net. It doesn't even have to be connected to the internet. You give it all your own information and then you host it internally, and then it can have access to all your files, and people can question that to find files or information within the company. And that is, people spend 30 to 40% of their day searching for information.
Yeah.
And if you can find something that can find you all the information you need in minutes, then, you've gave that person 35% of their day back.
Heck yeah. So what are your thoughts about, let's say a company says, we don't think we need to have a custom LLM, a Meta or a Mistral on site, but we do still want to be able to work with our IP. Would you say that's a no-no, or are there configurations that you recommend so that it is?
Yeah, there's lots of different ways of doing it. You can use something called OneTrust. You've got ServiceNow, which can set up asset management, or you can put in AI use cases into a form, and then that can be uploaded to ServiceNow, and then you can have dashboards to see, what the risks are for each one of those use cases. You can use a zero trust environment where you can set up a list of questions or information that can't pass outside of the company, but you can request and pull information in. So, there is lots of different ways of doing it, but it's all down to the use case, and it's down to what the company wants to use the tool for. And again, what problem are they trying to solve is what it always comes back to.
So let's say for a company that said, we're using it, we probably need to, they just heard that. They're like, we probably need to think about how we're letting our people use it. What would be kind of the entry level, or at least the basics of making sure that there was some sort of secure usage framework for their employees?
So an AI policy is the first thing I'd say. You have to have an AI policy, and it has to contain the guardrails. Tell them what they can and can't use AI for within the workplace. And then it creates accountability straight away, because if they're made to sign a policy to say, we can't put personal information or company information into this LLM, and then they're found to be doing it, then obviously, the company's got more weight to be able to come back to them with. But if you don't have any policy at all in terms of AI, how do you hold people to account for what they do?
Yeah.
So that's the first advice I'd say is you have to have an AI policy in the workplace. If you've got employees you're responsible for, then you need an AI policy in place.
For somebody that's not necessarily even that aware of what's possible with AI, how would you recommend they start with a use policy?
A use policy as in an AI policy, or
like they're hearing this and they're like, hey man, we probably need to have one of these set up for like some frameworks for our employees that are using ChatGPT in the business. Where would they start? I
mean, there's ChatGPT's got in ChatGPT you've got your custom GPTs, and there's a custom GPT library, and you type in AI use policy creator or AI use policy, and there's 100 different templates in there, and they'll just ask you one question at a time, and as you go through the question set, eventually it'll draft you a policy. So there's really simple ways of doing it in that way, or speak to a professional if you're not sure and you don't want to just make something that you might not think is fit for purpose, then just reach out to someone.
Yeah. So that's the hard part I find, is that there's high demand for AI expertise. There's low supply, and there's not really you can't go to Upwork necessarily. I mean, I guess you could, but I wouldn't be looking for a chief AI officer on Upwork. What would be some questions if a client called you and said, hey, we've enjoyed working with you in the past. We need to find somebody, let's say, full-time that's going to come in-house. We'd like for you to give us some advice on the kind of questions we need to be asking to make sure that person is really, truly a good fit or has the AI expertise that we need. What would be some advice you'd give them?
I mean, one thing I've found in the US, you've got chief AI officers, and they're quite extremely popular, and that they are a flavor in government, in large enterprises all over the US. In the UK, I can probably count on one hand how many chief officers there are. But what you do have is a lot of appointments of head of AI. Now, head of AI, the prerequisites for that is normally PhD, machine learning, really high level scientific intelligence, and sitting at a board level, as a head of AI, you are not, in my opinion, anywhere near as placed as a chief AI officer would be.
Yeah, agreed.
You can manage a highly sophisticated engineering team and deliver some unbelievable research and development, but through actually delivering a project and being able to look at it in the full holistic view of the transformation of the company, the business goals, the alignment, the understanding of the implementation of it, all that sort of stuff. It needs a full holistic view rather than the engineering focus. So the advice I'd probably say is you need somebody who's got business acumen. You need somebody who understands C-suite, understands how business works. And then on top of that, they've then applied AI knowledge over the top, and they've got experience in either working as a freelance consultant in going into businesses, and then see case studies from them. What have they already done? What have they achieved?
Yeah, that's good.
What are the outcomes of that? Because again, you can say, and I know the UK government, I'll go back to Copilot again, but they rolled out Copilot to 20,000 people, and then they ran it for 6 months, and then they came back and said, oh, we've got a 791% return on investment, and the average person is going to save 26 minutes a day. Now, that sounds great on paper, but if you look at that on what that could potentially save each person, that's 2 hours a day minimum. Yeah. And it just, that instantly screamed out to me that rollout wasn't, done in a way that people understood. And it was just a,
they're probably writing emails,
let me know how you get on type thing. Yeah. And so, that's where the key information is, it has to be a full process. it's not just implement AI and then walk away.
Yeah.
It's not a
Good point.
consultant business. Consultants deliver a project and leave. And that's why we do an advisory and not a consultancy, because we deliver a project, but then we stay in touch with them and follow up and make sure that that's still delivering, fit for purpose, still in date. Because you might deliver a project in AI and 3 months later it's obsolete because it's moving forward so fast that it doesn't work anymore, or there's something far better, which is far cheaper.
Yes. Yeah, that's the challenge with this, is that if you have somebody come in, teach your people about a certain tool, in 90 days, that information could be wrong. Not because the AI expert or the chief AI officer was wrong, but because this technology, it advances so quickly that they could have said, oh, never use this tool for that task. 90 days from now, they could have had some major updates, and now that's best in class. So it is important. I love this idea of the advisory, where there's a regular, dialogue going on with some updates from somebody like you, who's in the field, who's seeing it be used, and who's actually testing the stuff or building with the stuff. But I want to make a comment about that government case study. I agree totally. They're probably saving the 26 minutes by writing an email, like we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah, exactly.
26 minutes over 20,000 people. That's aggregated. That's a pretty significant. So I want the listeners out there to understand, like, even if you're just barely using it, like, there's still big wins, although you're leaving hours and hours of productivity per person on the table for sure. So Chris, I know that you take this role very seriously, and that you have done a fantastic job of kind of putting your thoughts together in content that you release regularly. You've shared it within the Chief AI Officer community. You share it on LinkedIn regularly. But is there a place where, if somebody wants to continue to consume your perspective on things, because you're out there, you're doing it, you're working with, we didn't name the clients, but some major, like, brands that everybody would know. So your perspective on this stuff it's not theory, right? How do people plug into kind of your position on things? Where would you recommend they go?
So, I mean, I'm most active on LinkedIn. I am starting to outreach into the other socials, but being ex-military, I wasn't really a social media person. So, I'm hyper focused on LinkedIn. That's where you'll get me at any other point. And you can see some of the things that we're doing for other businesses with things like hot lead response. So instead of a business taking 47 hours, which is the UK average, to respond to a client, we now can respond to clients within 60 to 90 seconds from just putting an inquiry on a website. So they submit the inquiry, hit enter, and they're still sat at their laptop, and then all of a sudden they get contacted straight away, be that by an AI voice agent, be that by an SMS. They're still in that position where they want to buy, and they're not instantly onto another website looking at another contact form for more information in another company. And the conversion rate from being able to respond within 60 to 90 seconds is 391%, and that's from the Harvard study. So
beat the lead.
Yeah, 100%. So speed to lead. So that's something that's become massively popular, and it's ever growing. We were quite early into it. But I'm starting to see more and more people, cold emails in my inbox offering me hot lead response or cold lead regeneration, which is another thing we do for, clients that are service-based with thousands and thousands of clients they no longer speak to. And we can regenerate those lists using AI and automation.
Easy stuff. Yeah, but very lucrative, very big wins for companies. Well, Chris, we're going to put all of those, the link to your LinkedIn profile and any of the tools that you've mentioned, they'll be in the show notes here. But I guess maybe any last bit of advice I want two perspectives. I want you talking to the executive and you talking to the employee. Any last bits of advice?
The first bit of advice is, anything that you want to implement in a business, you have to A, understand, and B, use yourself. Understand what it is, what the tools can do, and then what they can do for your business.
Yeah.
And that as a leadership team, you can speak to a CEO and say, oh, we really need AI. And you're like, do you use AI? No. So, they have to use it and understand it and to be able to implement it. Otherwise, they're implementing something they have no idea about.
Good point.
And then for the people, for the people who aren't in the leadership roles, embrace it and start small. Just pick one tool and just play with it and learn about it. And the better you get at understanding what the capabilities are, then you can see what other tools are available and just expand from there.
Great advice. Chris, I know it's been a long time that we've been trying to do this episode. I'm glad we finally did it. And for you, late at night, which I appreciate you making the sacrifice to share this information with the audience. So everybody, thank you so much again for tuning in to Using AI at Work. We promise to have fascinating guests just like Chris on every episode, where we're going to be discussing exactly how youth should be thinking about and using AI in your business. And with that, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Using AI at Work. Don't forget to subscribe for more conversations about how to use AI at work. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Chief AI Officer, for empowering businesses with AI education and training. Visit their website for a free AI readiness assessment and AI strategy guide to help you get started using AI at work. That's www.chiefaiofficer.com. Follow us on Twitter at the handle Using AI at Work, and visit www.usingaiatwork.com for free resources to help you harness AI in your role.